As of now, upwards of 50 plus characters have been cast for the DCU, and even a lot of actual superheroes who are Justice Leaguers. It's a good start for the most part, but there obviously still remains a plethora of characters who still do not have any actors associated with them, which is something that I wanted to look at in this video, specifically with the uncast members of the Justice League. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to help me get to 100,000 subscribers, and for more DCU content. Let's begin. The purpose of this video is not actually to go character by character and choose the actor that I just think should portray them. I'm not a casting director, I don't have access to audition tapes, and I haven't seen every actor in even at least one thing. What I wanted to do is to take a step back in the casting process before any actors are even considered and go over what I think the casting calls for each character should look like. A casting call is the invitation to audition for any actors who fit the criteria for a specific character's characterizations like gender, age, height, ethnicity, body type, and potentially even similarities to a well-known actor or even their vibe. This is important to ensure that the selection from which they are to choose from all generally fit the characters they're looking for, especially with the characters of the DC universe who already have pre-established looks and feels that I think they should at least attempt to recreate. That being said, the importance of that varies from character to character. Someone like Batman, I think absolutely always needs to be a white guy, and John Stewart always needs to be black. But the ethnicities of some lesser known characters like Swamp Thing or Mr. Miracle, for example, are a lot more malleable. Then, after going over the casting call, I will give some examples of actors who fit, and one final choice who I guess you can consider my fan casting, but I'm not going to pretend that a lot of them won't be popular fan casts. A lot of the time, popular fan casts do fit the mold. Okay, so let's start with the big one, Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, probably the most fan cast character of the DCU, and for good reason. They'll need to cast someone who rivals Robert Pattinson's current portrayal while going for a bit of a different, more fantastical and Bat family oriented version of the character. Batman should be a white guy, he definitely needs to be white, and he should be above 6 feet tall, with either black or very dark brown hair. He needs to be conventionally attractive, athletic, can play someone badass, intelligent, brooding, charismatic, and with an underlying level of humanity to him. These are all general characteristics of Batman. The unknown for this particular version is his age, considering that at the point of his debut in The Brave and the Bold, Damian will debut as well, meaning he's presumably up to his 4th Robin. Initially, I did think that that's something you can squeeze into maybe a 10-year career, meaning Bruce Wayne would be in his mid to late 30s, and around the same age as Superman, or at the very least closer than someone like Hal Jordan is. But now with the castings of other characters, like for instance Hal Jordan, we can see that the ages of the heroes of this universe will be a lot more all over the place, and Superman seems to be younger in this universe than the typical. Hal's casting really put a spotlight on how certain characters who are contemporaries in the comics might not be in this world. Because of this, and because of the fatherly role he'll have, I think DCU Batman's actor should be someone who's in his 40s, even if, ironically, Robert Pattinson will also be in his 40s as of the release of The Brave and the Bold, presumably. Pattinson does not look his age though, he looks a little bit younger. Whoever they cast should actually look like he's in his 40s, he should look like a father. Popular fan cast Jensen Ackles, who is currently 46, could definitely fit, but I don't love it. I also don't like Alan Ritchson for the role. I think he fits other characters way better. Like for instance, he would definitely be my casting for Captain Atom. Oliver Jackson Cohen is currently 37, but would be around 40 when The Brave and the Bold films. Jake Gyllenhaal can work, and I'm not kidding when I say Henry Cavill would fit way more as Batman than he ever did as Superman, and honestly, the fact that he previously played Superman is the only reason he's not my top choice. Instead, my final choice would actually be Sam Witwer, who is currently 46. Alternatively, they can maybe cast someone younger and either squeeze a long history into around a decade, or maybe say that he's older than he looks because of good genetics. In that case, I'd cast Tom Bateman, and not just because his last name is one letter away from Batman, he also looks a lot like Bruce Wayne. But my final choice would be a Batman in his 40s played by Sam Witwer. Another extremely important and commonly fan-casted casting is the DCU Wonder Woman. Diana has a list of aspects to her that make her difficult to cast. In the comics, she's 6 foot tall, but that would eliminate like 99% of all women. I think she should be tall, but she doesn't have to be over 6 feet. Gal Gadot was 5'10", which was a perfectly fine height, and I think they could open up to a few inches shorter as well. I'd say cap it off at 5'8". Obviously, she should also be beautiful, physically fit, and have an experienced aura to her. I know a lot of people want her to be very muscular, and while agree she should have some muscle. I don't think it should be so much that it compromises her femininity. As for her age, it might not be the character's age, but I think the actress should be in her early 30s. Any younger and she probably wouldn't feel authoritative enough. Any older, and you do run the risk of the character looking too old too quickly for a character who is supposed to potentially not age, depending on the version of Wonder Woman they're going for. Then there is the issue of her ethnicity. In the comics, she's usually drawn to be white, but the mascara is steeped in Greek mythology. I like the idea that they should limit their search to actors of Mediterranean descent. Using that criteria, the popular fan cast don't quite fit. May Calame is a bit too old and also a bit too short. Adria Arjona is not Mediterranean and is also a bit too short as well. I thought Melisanthe Mahut fit the look really well, and she's Greek, but I think they would probably want to go for someone a bit younger. A good choice would be Claudia Domit. She's 32, Mediterranean, but not clearly any specific country. Beautiful, in my opinion at least, and going off her performance in The Boys, she has a very commanding presence to her that makes her feel older, but not look older. I think because of that, she would be perfect for Wonder Woman, although she could also definitely play Talia al Ghul. The Flash is a corner of the world that's been entirely unconfirmed for the DCU as of now, but given their importance to the world, they will certainly appear. A big question is if the focus will be on Barry Allen or Wally West. I've always maintained that it's time for Wally to get some spotlight, and that just seems more and more likely as time has gone on, and because of that, I'll be casting based on Wally being in his early 20s and Barry being old enough to be a father figure to him, regardless of if he's dead or not. Barry Allen should be a relatively tall white man between 35 and 45 years old, with either blonde or very light brown hair, attractive, fit, and can play intelligence and wittiness. I've always thought that Chris Evans would be a good Barry Allen, and at 43 he'd be in the age range, but they'd probably want to avoid comparisons to Captain America and maybe even the Human Torch. Lucas Till is a popular fan cast, but at 34 he's a little bit under the age range. However, he could potentially work with one of the Wally West actors. My personal choice would actually be Patrick J. Adams. He looks like Barry, is tall, attractive, he's 43 years old, dirty blonde hair, and played a character on Suits that was both intelligent and witty. And I could even see him playing Io Barton if they're going to adapt the Return of Barry Allen's storyline, where Io Barton wears Barry's face. As for Wally, first and foremost, he needs to be a white ginger man. He'd ideally be in his early 20s, but if someone fits who's in their mid to late 20s, and Barry Allen is in his 40s, then I think it's fine. Aside from that, I don't think his height matters much, but I don't think he should be any more than a few inches shorter than average, and his height could go up to like 6'5". He should be attractive, fit, and have a level of relatability to him that maybe Barry doesn't. One in the vein of a Peter Parker. If Barry is in his 40s, then they could get away with someone like KJ Apa or Jake Austin Walker, who are both 27, but even then, I would prefer someone a bit younger. Kid Connor, who is 20, or my personal choice, Matt Lintz, who is 23, and very much had that Peter Parker Wally West energy when he was on Miss Marvel. He is only 5'8", which is a tad under average, but I don't think Wally needs to be tall, and he'd just have to be a bit bulkier than he is now, but that's something that actors do all the time. Another unconfirmed side of the universe who, like the Flash, appeared recently in the previous universe is Aquaman, who would have to be a bit different from Jason Momoa's portrayal, but that could be easy to pull off since Jason Momoa didn't exactly look like a comic accurate Aquaman, so I think they should look for white blonde actors who maybe fit a bit more authoritative and kingly roles than Momoa ever did. Aside from that, he should be attractive, muscular, and capable of growing a beard. As per usual, the biggest question is his age, but honestly, we don't have much to go on. Aquaman doesn't really have any close connections to other DC heroes, and we can't really use the ages of someone like Nightwing or Wally West as hints for someone like, for instance, Garth, because he's far less important and far less close to those characters. He's someone you can drastically change the look and timeline of, and also Aquaman is less of a father figure to him compared to Barry and Wally or Batman and Dick. So honestly, Aquaman could be anywhere from someone in his 30s to someone in his 40s to maybe even 50s depending on the characterization. Someone older who could fit is Alexander Skarsgård. He's 48, 6'4", and could definitely look like a superhero. Liam Hemsworth could follow in his brother's footsteps to play a big superhero, but an even better choice would be Alexander Ludwig. He is a bit on the younger side at just 32 years old, but that is still older than Superman, and he very much looks the part and has also played a king before, specifically on Vikings. Capping off the comic book founders of the Justice League is the Martian Manhunter, an interesting case since he's not human. The character is 7.5 feet tall and green, but whoever plays him will not be either of those things. He'd be in mocap probably, so what's more important than anything is the actor's gravitas and voice. they would need to be male and preferably over 40 to give Jean an older sound to him, but his height and ethnicity do not matter at all. That being said, throughout his history and adaptations, Jean has mostly been played or voiced by black actors, and for good reasons. They have very deep voices that really fit the character well, and frankly DC does have a general lack of very notable black actors. Some actors who I think could fit are Djimon Hounsou, who has worked with James Gunn before, Sterling K. Brown, and my pick, Charles Parnell. Green Arrow and Black Canary I think should be cast together, with the chemistry between them being an important aspect to the casting. I obviously have no way of checking that, but it felt like it was important to mention. Green Arrow should be an above average height white man with either blonde or light brown hair, comedic chops, can grow a goatee, and the classics of every superhero fit and conventionally attractive. As for his age, I would have really liked for the DCU Green Arrow to be contemporaries with Hal Jordan, so I would have based it off of that, but I really do not want to see a 60-year-old Green Arrow. Instead, I based it off of the idea that Roy Harper is around Wally West's age, so in his early 20s, and Oliver is old enough to be a father figure to him, so he'd have the same age range as Barry Allen of 35 to 45. Ironically, this does make Stephen Amell a candidate, but they should obviously go for someone new, like Garrett Hedlund, who's a popular fan cast. He's 40, 6'2", and looks a lot like Oliver Queen. I can't, however, speak to his acting ability, and I think someone who could fit just as well is Wyatt Russell, who's 38, 6'2", and with all the physical characteristics of Oliver Queen, while also proving he has comedic chops in the past. He is currently over at Marvel as the US agent, but I have a feeling that by the time Oliver would make his debut, US agent's story will probably have already ended. As for Black Canary, she's typically a good 6 to 8 years younger than Oliver, so I'd put her age range at late 20s to maybe mid 30s. Aside from that, she would be a very attractive, athletic white woman who's around a bit above average height for a woman. Her hair color should preferably be blonde, but it doesn't need to be. Black Canary actually wasn't a natural blonde for most of her comic history. If they want to go down the route that she has black or brown hair but wears a blonde wig as Black Canary, then yeah, they could go for it. She would also have to have a bit of a streetwise and badass feel to her, not too high-pitched of a voice. A bit of masculinity, but still very feminine. She was also a singer at one point in the comics, but I don't think they ever really need to adapt that, so the actress does not need to be a good singer. One popular fan cast that could work really well is Samara Weaving, but I'd actually go with Lily James, who I think looks the part, is a great actress, and could definitely fit the mold. If I had to cast both characters together, and do so based on these two actors having chemistry with each other in a different movie or a show, I'd go with Sydney Sweeney for Black Canary and Glenn Powell for Green Arrow, because they have great chemistry with each other and I think they could both fit the role. However, I prefer Wyatt Russell for Green Arrow and Lily James for Black Canary. But Glenn Powell could definitely also play Booster Gold, even if it doesn't seem like he will. As of now, there's one rumored actor to be playing Booster, Kumail Nanjiani, and frankly, he just does not fit the role at all. He does not fit the casting call I'd give out in any sense of the word. Booster should definitely be white. His blonde hair is an integral part of the design, and frankly, his backstory and personality wouldn't come off as well otherwise. Aside from that, he could be of any height that isn't to either extreme. He should be fit, attractive, comedic, good at playing cocky, but also very heroic, and they should cast him alongside Ted Kord for optimal chemistry between them. For that same reason, Booster and Ted should probably be close in age. We don't know Ted's age in this world, but if nothing else, he does have a daughter in her 20s, and the director of Blue Beetle did say he wanted to cast Jason Sudeikis, who is currently 49. I think they should honestly just go ahead with the casting of Jason Sudeikis for Ted Kord and cast someone no more than maybe 10 years younger than Jason, somewhere between 39 and 45. Anything older I think would be a bit too old. One popular fan cast who fits is Billy Magnuson, or at least I think it does. I've never seen him in anything. I think who fits better is Ryan Gosling, who would be my pick even if it seems like wishful thinking given his star power, but he looks like Booster, he has the comedy chops, he could definitely play Booster Gold. If I could go younger, I'd actually cast Shane Topp, since he looks the part, is hilarious, and it would be really funny for an influencer to play the superhero equivalent. As for Ted Kord, if he doesn't end up being played by Jason Sudeikis, then I think then he just should be the template for who Ted Kord is. Someone in his late 40s, white, brown hair presumably, and again, cast alongside Booster Gold. But I'm just going to say Jason Sudeikis as my fan cast. As for Kumail Nanjiani, I think there are other DC heroes who he could play, with my choice for him being Mr. Miracle, a character who I think could be absolutely any ethnicity and hair color. Should be a man under 5'10", but above, let's say 5'5", between 30 and 50 years old, and cast alongside Big Barda for the chemistry test. And they should definitely definitely also be around the same age. Speaking of, Big Barda should be cast alongside Mr. Miracle and around the same age, between 30 and 50 years old. And unlike Wonder Woman, she is a character who definitely needs to be very tall, so at least 5'11", certainly taller than Mr. Miracle, and at least a bit muscular, at least after bulking up. I'd prefer it if Big Barda was an ethnicity with a lighter skin tone, but if I will be honest, if they do end up casting someone who doesn't necessarily look like Big Barda does in the comics, I wouldn't really mind that much. I will admit, Big Barda does sound like a very difficult character to cast, if nothing else because there's not a lot of women who are that tall. One actress who I did found who could potentially fit is Megan Gale. Orion should be the same age as Mr. Miracle, so between 30 and 50, but whatever Mr. Miracle's age was. He could be any non-extreme height, muscular, good at playing very angry, and maybe with a face that is not considered conventionally attractive, at least not 100%. Ethnicity and hair color could be anything, but my pick would be Jeremy Allen White, even if he is someone who has said in the past that he doesn't necessarily want to be in a superhero movie, so if not him, then someone like him. The histories of Hawkman and Hawkgirl are very complicated, and I think the DCU should try to simplify it at least a bit. As of now, we know that Isabella Merced, who is only 23, will play the Kendra Saunders version of Hawkgirl. Going off her age, I'd wager a bet that the previous incarnation was Shiara Sanders, a member of the JSA who died of old age in the early 2000s and was reincarnated as Kendra Saunders, and that her husband was Carter Hall, who was also Hawkman, a member of the JSA, and maybe died a bit before that. Carter was then reincarnated into what I would make the next reincarnation, Qatar Hall, a Thanagarian police officer who, in his first appearance, will come to Earth in search of his soulmate. Hawkgirl, all of this is speculative, but it's also exactly what I would do, and it's what I'm going to be basing the casting of him off of. So Hawkman, I think, should be in his late 20s to maybe even mid 30s, and would ideally be very tall and very muscular. As for ethnicity, Hawkman could be absolutely anything. He was black in Black Adam, and that was fine, it doesn't really matter. That being said, my choice for the role would actually be someone who does look like Hawkman in the comics, Aaron Taylor Johnson, who's 34, 5'11", and a rare person who could probably pull off the classic Hawkman costume where he's always shirtless. Plastic Man should definitely be a white guy with strong comedic chops, high energy, and maybe a bit of a lanky body. He could definitely be any adult age, just not too young or too old, any height, around or above average, and could have brown or black hair. The most popular fan cast, and I think it's perfect, is Ben Schwartz, so that's who I would cast as well. Otherwise, I could also see Andy Samberg or John Mulaney. Actually, I think those actors are great castings for the Elongated Man as well, specifically Andy Samberg, since he's played a comedic detective in a loving relationship before in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I could see that kind of being translated into the Elongated Man, who I think would basically just have the same casting call as Plastic Man, except maybe a little bit less on the comedic side and more on the detective side. Vixen should be a black woman between the ages of 25 and 35 with either black or brown hair, and supermodel good looks. In fact, they should probably cast a model turned actress, or at the very least, a very pretty actress, since that is Vixen's job in universe. Because she's a supermodel, I think she should also be on the taller side as well. In the comics, she's 5'9", so somewhere around there, give or take a few inches. Titan's Starfire actress Anna Diop would have been a way better fit as Vixen compared to Starfire, but she is also a bit above the age range. Natalie Emmanuel could work as well, mostly because she's gorgeous, but an even better fit would be the 27-year-old actress Ella Balinska, who kind of looks exactly like how Vixen looks, not to mention she is fairly tall at 5'11", so she would be my pick. Swamp Thing is an interesting case because they could either cast one actor to play both Alec Holland and Swamp Thing, or have two different actors, one for Swamp Thing and one for Alec Holland. If they're one and the same, the actor has to be a man that's in his 30s or 40s with a deep voice. Actors like Bill Skarsgård, Boyd Holbrook, or my choice, Lee Pace. If they are separate, then those actors would just be my picks for Alec Holland, because honestly, Alec Holland is a blank slate of a character, anybody could play him, so let's just stick to those actors, while Swamp Thing is played by someone older with an even deeper voice, like Vincent D'Onofrio, who's expressed interest in the role, Keith David, or Vin Diesel, who has been voicing Groot this entire time, and I think it could be funny if he moves over to play DC's resident plant creature. That being said, I'd prefer them to have one actor Lee Pace play Alec Holland, and then also voice and provide mocap for Swamp Thing. Red Tornado could be played by absolutely anyone as long as it's a man who could do a robotic voice and isn't too short. If they go down the Vision route of putting makeup on an actor, I'd go for Rami Malek. If Red Tornado will be a fully CGI creation, then a voice actor should voice him, either Ross Marquand or Michael Emerson. Zatanna should be a woman in her 20s or early 30s of any non-extreme height and any not too dark ethnicity with black or brown hair, and of course very attractive. Jenna Ortega was a very popular fan cast for Raven and still is, but I think she's too old to play Raven. I think Raven should be a genuine teenager, and I think she could fit Zatanna. But my first choice would actually be Camila Mendez, who I think would fit the character really well. At 30, she's right at the middle of the age range. Sticking to the Justice League dark side of things, Constantine should be a man ages 30 to 45, white and British, with either blonde or light brown hair. Dan Stevens is a popular fan cast that I think can work, but also Constantine is the one character who I think, if they bring back his old actor, Matt Ryan, not Keanu Reeves, I wouldn't complain since he's absolutely perfect in the role, has already played Constantine across different universes and mediums, and at 43, he fits the age range. That being said, just to simplify things, let's just go with Dan Stevens. As previously mentioned, Alan Ritchson would be perfect casting for Captain Atom, because whoever plays him should be a tall and muscular man who's good at playing a no-nonsense soldier. I wouldn't say his ethnicity really matters, and nor does his hair color. However, Alan Ritchson is definitely my pick. The other Atom of the DC universe is an interesting case, because they could either choose to make Ray Palmer the Atom, or make him older and have Ryan Choi be the main Atom instead. Then, even if they go with Ray Palmer, he could be anywhere from in his 30s to even all the way up to his 50s. My first instinct is to make Ray Palmer older and retired and focus on Ryan Choi. The reason I'm not doing that is, as DC's resident shrinker, they should minimize the amount of comparisons that are made to Ant-Man, and making Ray old and skipping to Ryan would just be too similar to what they did with Hank Pym and Scott Lang's Ant-Man in the MCU. Instead, Ryan could be saved for a little bit later, and because of that I won't be casting him, while Ray Palmer, I think, should be around the same age as his comic book best friend, Hawkman, so in his 30s. Otherwise, he could be any light-skinned ethnicity other than Asian, since that'd just be Ryan Choi at that point. Any non-extreme height, brown or black hair, and somebody good at playing somebody very smart. Also, I think it would be really funny for the Arrowverse to have started a trend of former Superman actors going on to play Ray Palmer. Henry Cavill is a bit too old and would never do it, and I don't think Tyler Hoechlin would fit. Any other actor from before is also too old. Instead, let's look at Superman voice actors like the Tomorrowverse's Darren Criss, who does fit, and would be my second choice. My first choice is Jack Quaid, who voices Superman on Moz. He's 32, looks like Ray Palmer, and actually played a scientist in Oppenheimer. He would be my pick. And so, with all these fan castings mixed in with the actual castings, this is what the potential expanded DCU Justice League could look like. Obviously, there are a lot more Justice Leaguers out there, but I can only cover so many in one video, and some might just appear in a hypothetical follow-up video if they're prominent members of maybe the Teen Titans, for instance. Let me know your fan castings in the comments down below, and thanks so much for watching.